Well, thank you all for being here. Thank you all for being here. It is with great pleasure that I introduce a very good friend, Genzen Ed Cadman. He is originally from Wenatchee, Washington, not too far from Seattle, where he lives now. His Dharma path was greatly influenced by his frequent sojourns into the wilderness areas in north central Washington, where he learned to sit in quietude in the mountains. Genzen's introduction to interbeing was inspired by his University of Oregon Graduate School studies in the poetry of William Blake. Zen training began, excuse me, in earnest in 1992 in Seattle when he met Rinzai master Genki Takabayashi. Sorry. He practiced with Genki Sama for the next 20 years. In 2006, he began training in Soto Zen with Jakusho Kwang Roshi at Sonoma Mountain Zen Center in Santa Rosa, California. After serving as Shuso in the winter practice period of 2019, Genzen was ordained by Kwang Roshi February 2020. Since 2010, Genzen has also trained at Seattle Soto Zen, first with Echo Jeff Kelly, and then beginning in 2020 with Kanshin Allison Tate. Kanzeon towers over this wonderful community and its Sangha teachers, and she inspires Genzen again and again. And it's so wonderful that he's going to come and share his wisdom with us today.
Well, this is about the third Dharma talk I've ever given, so I hope you bear with me. And I really appreciate practicing and training with Steve. He is instrumental to the functioning of Seattle Soto Zen, leads our practice council. He operates the hybrid practice that we have on Sundays. And I've only met him in person twice, but I just feel like I've spent so many hours with him, even chanting full moon ceremonies and things like that. So it's an honor to be here. The title of my talk is In the Morning, Awareness Brings Forth Kanzeon. In the morning, awareness brings forth Kanzeon. How many of you had Kanzeon come to you today? Yes. Isn't it wonderful? So at Seattle Soto Zen, we chant the chant of boundless compassion and the Sino-Japanese version twice a month. First Sunday of every month, we chant the Sino-Japanese version, which is Kanzeon. Namu, Butsu, Yo, Butsu Uen, Yo, Butsu Uen, Bupo, Soen, Jo, Rakugajo, Chonen, Kanzeon, Bonen, Kanzeon. And I love that chant. It's a part of my practice, not saying it to myself every day, but once in a while when I'm in a peaceful spot on a park bench or when I really need to call in the cavalry. The first time I ever chanted the Me Jukku Kannon Gyo was, as Steve mentioned, in my Rinzai training. First time I practiced Zen was in a Rinzai group in Seattle, and our teacher, Genki Takabayashi, had come over from Japan, was trained in Japan. And we would have sesshin at this wonderful retreat center on Puget Sound across from Seattle, where Steve also has visited, at Camp Indianola. And we would start chanting this Kanzeon Namu Butsu again, not 7 times like we do at Seattle Soto, but 33 times. So that's the Rinzai mark. And by about the 18th time, we were really building up speed. And so when we got to the late 20s and the 30s, it was really fun. And then a clap, and everybody would shout to the top of their lungs, "Moo!" And then we would sit and listen to the waves outside on the Puget Sound for 5 minutes or so. So chant of boundless or the compassion to me was a funny and inspiring energy phenomenon. Brought a lot of energy into the body, brought us a lot closer to listening to the waves. But when I started hearing the English translation, it became part of my practice imagination, let's say. So in the English translation, we do it 7 times. Or no, in the English translation, we do it 3 times. When we do the Sino-Japanese time, we do it 7 times. And again, it builds up in power so that it's almost rejoicing by the time we finish. Bupo soen jo rakugajo chonen kanzeon bonen kanzeon nennen ju shinki nennen furi shin. And when do we chant it and why do we chant it? Well, we chant it when we're remembering people in need. That's what we do on our part of our Sunday practice. People in need, people who are ill, people who are suffering. And we also chanted for people who have recently passed away. So I've been a member of Seattle Soto for a long time. A lot of my names are my names on the list. Peter, Nancy, Joey. And they get repeated every month because Peter's Parkinson's is still with us, and Nancy's recovering from her surgery. But every month we also chant for people who passed away. And recently, in the last week, I've heard of 3 people, and I'm adding them to the list to be chanted next Sunday. Braun Levi, Kathleen Rose Gold, and Alice Notley. So Braun Levi is a friend of the grandchildren of one of my friends who was killed in a car accident last weekend. And Kathleen Rose Gold lived in my apartment for years, and we were kind of, hello, how are you? It's nice to see you. And I just learned after I moved out that she had passed away last week. And now Alice Notley is a great American poet who composed many volumes of poetry. So why do we invoke Kanzeon when we read these names? Let me just read to you the chant of boundless compassion and see what you think. So there are various translations. And I know at Sonoma Mountain we have a different translation from the one that we do at Seattle Soto. But the Seattle Soto translation was given to us by one of our members, John Nomura. And John passed away a couple of years ago at the age of 81. And he was Japanese American, 2nd-generation Japanese, who had practiced Zen all his life and felt that our particular version could be a little bit more authentic. So with graciousness, our guiding teacher, Kanzeon Allison, said, John, we'll take your translation and it'll become part of our monthly service. That other one we had, we will replace. So here's what John wrote. Kanzeon, homage to Buddha. Buddha is here and now. Buddha is this karmic moment. In this karmic moment of Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, attaining permanence, enjoyment, purity, and self. In the morning, awareness brings forth Kanzeon. In the evening, awareness brings forth Kanzeon. Thought after thought arises sincerely from Buddha mind. Thought after thought is not separate from Buddha mind. So what I love to do with this is to think about thought after thought, not separate from Buddha mind. And when we chant it for the people who passed away or the people who are ill, it's to remind us of our interconnection with these people. Even people whose name we've never heard before, it's just part of our list. And it's not a list so much as it's a syllable that's part of our own interconnectedness with all people. To remind us of our interconnection, to know that we are on the list, even though our name's not there, and we're part of their lives, and they're part of our lives, just hearing the name just once. Well, that's easy for us in a way because we've all practiced Zazen for so many years. In the practice of Zazen, we sit together in our various sanghas and on our Zoom sanghas. We sit alone in our living rooms. We sit together with friends. We take a hike into the mountains and sit at the campfire and practice Zazen, watching our thoughts coming and going, not grasping, not clinging, and not letting us get worried. We know, we feel we're all deeply interconnected and we're not separate. So thought after thought is not separate from Buddha mind. But what about my mind? Today was a real challenge for me. One of the things going on in my life is at the age of an aging late septuagenarian, I now have a lot of pain, ankle pain. It extends into my knee. And so I went out to breakfast with a friend today, and then he took me to Safeway to do some shopping and bring home bulk items. And my leg was so full of pain that while I was in Safeway, I was worried. You ever get worried when you go shopping? I do. Or yesterday, I took the train, and we here in Seattle we have a light rail, so I took the bus to the light rail, and then a friend picked me up near her house, and then we went out for lunch. But often when I'm on the train, just waiting for it to come, sometimes I have my bicycle that I'm kind of ferrying onto the light rail. I'm worried. And with this practice of chanting boundless compassion and knowing that thought after thought is connected to Buddha mind, I start to practice a lot now by just realizing the awareness of where my mind is and saying the word Kanzeon. I don't say it out loud. I just feel Kanzeon. And there's an image I'm sure that we all can visualize of a Kanzeon. I have a postcard in my kitchen of a Kanzeon, and I have a little statue back here that a friend gave me of a Kanzeon. Um, but actually reciting the word to myself, it's a different kind of practice. I don't visualize so much. I just remember that thought after thought, even these anxious thoughts, are connected to Buddha mind. So, what is Buddha mind to me? Well, I have to admit that Buddha mind is feeling people who love me. And now many of the people who love me have passed away. So I feel my parents, Mary Jean and Ed. I feel two of my former partners, Hillary, who passed away at age 69 from cancer, and uh, Lynn, who passed away just a couple of years ago, the effects of COVID. But they're in this apartment with me. They're in my field. Lynn even gave me a beautiful rug that I have my altar on. And so when I am invoking Kanzeon, I'm invoking my parents' love and the love of these former partners, and then my younger cousin, also called Ed. He died 3 years ago. We were closer than brothers. I have brothers, but they live on the East Coast. And so when I'm feeling anxious, when I'm cussing because of the pain, um, it's such a gift to be able to say Kanzeon. So I live just 4 blocks from beautiful park here in Seattle, Volunteer Park, which is the home of the Seattle Asian Art Museum. And in the Asian Art Museum is a wonderful statue of Avalokiteshvara, which is a Sanskrit name for Kanzeon. And this statue has 1,000 arms and 11 heads. So I like to, another part of my Kanzeon practice is visualizing this statue. And recently I've come to think of it as, what are in the arms that she's is extending out in an aureole around her? One is, well, there's a hammer, there's a spatula. So these are the tools of helping. But there's also a vajra, and there's also a jar of perfume. So when I studied and started looking at this sculpture, these 1,000 arms are part Dharma gifts and part just practical gifts, like the Vajra, the thunderbolt, the remembrance of here now. And I start to visualize, like on Zoom broadcasts, like this one. We have how many here? 16, 20 people. These are all arms of Kanzeon. And each of us, each of you here hold a different gift. And you're all sitting in your homes or apartments. I see some beautiful artwork. All these are included in those arms of Kanzeon. And when I'm on the train, for instance, and I'm traveling here and there, I like to see everybody on the train as one of the arms of Kanzeon, even the grumpy ones. And it really brings me close to the transit security people and the job they do and the gift that they are holding in their hands. Anyway, so that's how I work with Kanzeon. And this is in remembrance of Braun and Kathleen Rose Gold and Alice Notley. We chant their names once a month and feel our interconnection with all beings. And I thought I'd like to end with a poem by Alice Notley. This is from a book of hers called The Culture of One. Alice Notley first came to my attention through a Dharma talk given by Norman Fisher, who's a compatriot of hers. And she has a book in Culture of One, which tells a long story of a woman in Needles, California, who is experiencing different guides to help her. She lives in a shack at the edge of a dump in Needles. And one of these guides that came to her is Avalokiteshvara. I'll read it to you here. She calls the poem, Then I Became Mercy. Then I became Mercy with her 1,000 arms. They were all I was. All over my front and from my back. I had no hidden thoughts, no time, it seemed, for the secret. The arms were the space of me. What was my face? I tried for a delicate Korean aspect at first, but then I might as well be the cloud. Am I the cloud? I'm still not sure. Having the arms, one scarcely sees what one does with them. Obviously, one cannot choose who one's merciful to. One doesn't even see them. It's all arms, arms, arms. I think it works by my simply having the arms. They are what you need. You touch one and it's done. You've obtained mercy, which is what? Cessation of your suffering for a time. How do I have this ability? All I can say is that I accepted the arms themselves. It's contained in the leap from not having the arms to having them. Once you have them, that's it.
Thank you so very much, Genzen. Let's go ahead and sit zazen for a few minutes, and then we'll have an opportunity for questions.